Here we go. Hello, everyone. So, welcome back to BookBeat, and we're doing the Spenser series, and we're up to number 12, a Catskill Eagle. I've mentioned before many times that this is absolutely my favorite Spenser story. So, let's jump into it, and I'll tell you why. Yeah, so a Catskill Eagle. There's a quote at the beginning of the book from Herman Melville's Moby Dick. And what you realize with this story and maybe the previous two stories is that um, the titles have nothing to do with the mystery per se, but actually has to do with the relationship between Spenser and Susan. So a little bit of romantic mushiness there, but that's okay. We'll forgive him for that. But I do love the title, A Catskill Eagle. It caught my attention when I first saw the book, and it's a great book. So let's look at first who's in this story. Well, I guess this is probably his longest book. I didn't actually count the pages and compare this to other stories, but I do think it's probably his longest book, and that means it's probably got the most number of characters, some of whom I'm not even going to mention. I'll let you discover them as you go through it, but they're all really interesting people for various reasons. Robert B. Parker is great with dialogue and kind of giving us a feel for situations and what people sound like and how they think, not just the main characters, but all these minor characters too. He does an excellent job at that. So we've got Susan, we've got Hawk, we've got Rachel Wallace shows up a little bit. We've got Quirk and Belson, they're there. We've got Ives and McKinnon, Ives from the CIA and McKinnon from the FBI. But who else do we have here? We've got Russell Costigan and Jerry and Grace Costigan. And these are the major kind of bad guys in the story. Not in the traditional sense of a bad guy, but we find out that Susan's secret love has been this guy named Russell Costigan. They met in Washington, D.C., and they started having a relationship, and it just so happens that Russell's father, Jerry, is one of the 3 richest men in America, and sells a lot of weapons and armament. And so later in the book, the CIA says, okay, we'll help you with all of the problems you're having in California, which I'll explain in a minute. But in a little bit give and take there, we need you to kill Jerry Costigan. So he's a bad guy, but not on the local level. He's just way bigger than that. Okay, so where does this story take place? Well, all over the place. It starts in Boston. Then Spenser flies out to California, Mill River, not Mill Valley, Mill River, to break Hawk out of jail. Then in Mill River, they go to the Keep and confront Jerry. Then they drive up to Washington State, and they go to the Lodge looking for Susan, another Costigan home. Also, they spent some time in San Francisco hiding from the police and meeting with Susan's psychologist, Dr. Hilliard. They're back in Boston. Then they're out to Pequod, Connecticut, and the Costigan's Transpan facilities looking for Susan, where they finally find her. And then back to Boston, where there's Jerry Costigan has taken out a contract on them, and so there's some stuff going on in Boston again. And then back out west to Boise, Idaho, where Jerry Costigan has recycled an old silver mine underground. So you can see they're all over the place. And yeah, it's kind of interesting. So what's the story? Why is Spenser, running around the country like this, all over the place? Well, Susan, he gets a letter from Susan saying that she is being held against her will, and that Hawk is in jail. He went out to help her, and he's in jail in Mill River, California, and that she needs Spenser to go out there and break Hawk out and basically find Susan, who has been taken by Russell and is hiding him from Spenser. He knows about Spenser and doesn't want to let her go. So, Of course, this infuriates Spenser and Hawk, and they're off to find her. So that's what this story's all about. Action! We got that opening letter. We got Spenser and Henry coming up with a cool idea of how to break Hawk out of jail. We have Spenser breaking Hawk out of jail. We have them breaking into Jerry Costigan's luxurious house up in the mountains called The Keep. We've got Spenser and Hawk in San Francisco confronting a pimp named Leo. We've got Spenser meeting with Dr. Hilliard. Later, Spenser meets with Russell Costigan's wife in Chicago. I forgot to mention that one. We've got them, going out to the lodge in Washington State and burning that down. There's a lot of tension in all of these scenes. Both physically, dangerous, a lot of action going on, but a lot of psychological stuff going on here too. And then out to, there's Richie Lou, a guy named Richie Lou who's hired to kill Spenser and Hawk. There's an incredible scene there down at the harbor in Boston. And then there's a lot, there's pages and pages of them out at Pequod in Connecticut, where Transpan, the Costigan munitions company, where they finally track Susan down. There's a lot going on there. And then finally, the Spenser going out to Boise, Idaho, and meeting for the first and last time, we assume, Russell Costigan, and finally coming face to face with Jerry Costigan and Grace Costigan again. So lots of things going on here. What surprised me in this book? Well, we learn more about, more details about Susan's, what's been going on in Susan's life. We knew from previous books that she'd been in Washington, D.C., and that she's and then she'd gone out to San Francisco, to California. And the surprising thing is that wow, she's been having an affair with this super rich guy who's happens to be married, and Spenser can't believe it. And but how she's kind of going crazy. She's lost control of her mind. She's lost control of her life. And when Hawk tells her about his meeting with Susan and explains how Susan was acting, Spenser just is in total shock at, like, this isn't the Susan that I know. What's going on? Because Susan, as we know, is a very strong person, a very strongly opinionated, a strongly willed person, but not anymore. Other nice things here. I mean, okay, Hawk and Spenser. We're now 12 years into the series. This is the 12th book. We're 9 or 10 years into their relationship. So things have, on the one hand, we feel like, wow, that was fast. But actually, no, it's 10 years now that Hawk and Spenser have been kind of working together, have become very close. And I mean, that's the main reason I like this book, along with the great number of one-liners and the humor and the way Parker's ability to write up minor side characters, like the guy Red and the guys at the Pequot House, and another example, the conversation in the restaurant between the FBI, CIA, and Quirk and Spenser and Hawk. That's very well done. So all of that is really good and surprising. But the main reason I like this book is we get hundreds of pages of Hawk and Spenser together. And the Spenser series in Robert B. Parker is at its absolute best when Hawk and Spenser are working together. There's no two ways about it. So, any repeats? Well, some interesting things here. One is, again, it comes up, Spenser's reluctance. Sorry. Spenser's reluctance to kill anyone unnecessarily. Hawk is the opposite. Hawk never hesitates to kill anyone. And but that's not to say that the Hawk kills indiscriminately. I think Hawk's way of thinking is anyone that we are doing business with or confronting, they're all in a bad business doing bad things, and they all, in a sense, deserve to die. It's not that they themselves are bad, but they made the choice of doing what they're doing, and part of that choice is it's dangerous, and you could be killed at any time, any day. And it's the same for him and Spenser. So if someone needs to be killed, it's either him or me, or him or maybe me. Well, why take the chance? But Spenser never feels that way. In this book, he lets Richie Lou go. This guy who was contracted to kill him, because Richie Lou says, I don't know who hired me. It's nothing personal, and Spenser understands that, and Hawk cannot believe it when they've captured Richie Lou, but they let him go, and that's Spenser. When they go up to the lodge, and instead of killing some of the guards there guarding the place, which Hawk does without any compunction at all, Spenser again lets one or two of them live, and Hawk just shakes his head and says, one of these days it's going to come back and you're going to be killed, and we can't afford to be killed this time. Babe, he loves to call him Babe. But here's another case where Spenser does kill a guy. It's Leo, the pimp in San Francisco. Why? Not so much that Leo is dangerous to them, but Leo is going to take it out on the two whores that Hawk and Spenser spend a few days with hiding out from the law. That's it. That's good enough for Spenser to want to make the decision to kill Leo, because he would have taken out on these two ladies and it wasn't their fault. Kind of interesting way of looking at things, right? And at the Pequod house, when him and Hawk finally get into Transpan and foment a rebellion, mainly amongst the hundreds of Vietnamese, probably illegal immigrants that are working there, they have a conversation, and the idea is, well, it's gonna just lead to complete chaos, and a lot of them are gonna be killed. And then Spenser says, well, if I'm honest about it, I don't really care. Why? If I can get Susan back, I don't really care. So in the very, very, very end, that's really how, now that she's part of his life, that's how Spenser makes his decisions, usually. And everything revolves around Susan. And in this case, absolutely everything revolves around Susan and saving her and keeping her safe and keeping their relationship alive. Meaning, without her, Spenser doesn't want to live. And we can see that has happened. And that is absolutely the truth in the previous few books. And the other really nice repeat here is, it's not only Spenser, but Hawk is totally committed to Susan too. And Hawk says, Spenser says, she keeps me human, and Hawk says she keeps both of us human. And that's a really nice touch, I think, and tells us a lot about Hawk. So let's take a look at some really nice quotes, favorite lines in the book here. Okay, the beginning. This is how the book begins. It was nearly midnight, and I was just getting home from detecting. I had followed an embezzler around on a warm day in early summer, trying to observe him spending his ill-gotten gain. The best I've been able to do was catch him eating a veal cutlet sandwich in a sub shop in Danvers Square across from Security National Bank. It wasn't much, but it was as close as you could get to. It wasn't much, but it was as close as you could get to sin in Danvers. Beautiful opening line or two there. Then he continues. I got a Stein lager from the refrigerator and opened it and sat at the counter to read my mail. There was a check from a client, a consumer protection letter from the phone company, the threat of a field collection from the electric company, and a letter from Susan. The letter said, I have no time. Hawk is in jail in Mill River, California. You must get him out. I need help too. Hawk will explain. Things are awful, but I love you, Susan. And no matter how many times I read it, that's all it said. It was postmarked San Jose. Gets up, has a beer, then says, I got off the stool very carefully and went slowly and got my atlas and looked up Mill River, California. It was south of San Francisco, population 10,753. I drank another swallow of beer. Then I went to the phone and dialed. Vince Haller, this is his lawyer, answered on the 5th ring. I said it was me. He said, Jesus Christ, it's 20 minutes of 1. I said, Hawk's in jail in a small town called Mill River, south of San Francisco. I want you to get a lawyer in there now. At 20 minutes of fucking 1? Haller said. Susan's in trouble too. I'm going out in the morning. I want to hear from the lawyer before I go. What kind of trouble? Haller said. I don't know. Hawk knows. Get the lawyer down there right now. Okay, I'll call a firm we know in San Francisco. They can roust one of their junior partners out and send him down. It's only about 9:45 out there. I want to hear from him as soon as he's seen Hawk. Haller said, You okay? I said, Get going, Vince, and hung up. I got another beer and read Susan's letter again. It said the same thing. I don't know, but to me that's a very, very compelling start to the book. The phone rang at 4:12 in the morning. My second bottle of beer had gone flat on the counter, half finished, and I was lying on my back on the couch with my hands behind my head looking at the ceiling. I answered the phone before the 3rd ring. At the other end, a woman's voice said, Mr. Spenser? I said, yes. She said, This is Paula Goldman. I'm an attorney with Stein, Fay, and Courtbet in San Francisco, and I was asked to call you. Have you seen Hawk? I said. Yes, he's in jail in Mill River, California, on a charge of murder and assault. There's no bail and no realistic hope of any. Who'd he kill? He's accused of killing a man named Emmett Calder, who works as a security consultant for a man named Russell Costigan. There are also several accounts of assault on other security personnel and several police officers. He is apparently difficult to subdue. Yes, I said. He admits he killed Calder and assaulted the various others, but it says he was set up. Says it was self-defense. Can you make a case? On the facts, maybe, but the problem is that Russell Costigan's father is Jerry Costigan. Jesus Christ, I said. You know Jerry Costigan? I know who he is. He owns many things. Yes. Paula Goldman's voice was firm and unhesitant. And one of the things he owns is Mill River, California. So, he doesn't have much chance, I said, if he gets to trial. If he gets to trial, he's a gone goose. I was quiet for a minute, listening to the little transcontinental noises on the open line. How things have changed, huh? Did he say anything about Susan Silverman? I said. He said he'd come out at her request and that they'd been waiting for him. The interview was conducted under close scrutiny and was given very grudgingly. Stein, Fay, and Corbett is a major law firm in the Bay Area. We have a lot of clout. If we'd had less, there might have been no interview at all. That's all you know? That's all I know. What are his chances of beating this thing? None. Because it's an iron solid case? Yes, it's iron solid. But he also broke 3 of Russell Costigan's front teeth. That's like beating up Huey Long's kid in his home parish in Louisiana in 1935. And for Christ's sake, he's black. The Costigan's are not egalitarian. They are not, she said. Tell me about the jail. 4 cells off the police station, which is in a wing of the town hall. Hawk is the only prisoner at the moment. The civilian dispatcher, female, and 2 cops, male, were on duty when I was there. As an officer of the court, it is my obligation to remind you that abetting a jailbreak is a felony under the California Penal Code. It's never loosened up out there since Reagan was governor, I said. Always the humor, one of my favorite lines. When the sun comes up, she said, I'll scramble around and work on the bail, but that's shoveling shit against the tide. If you need me, call the office. She gave me the number. I said, thank you, Ms. Goldman. She said, Mrs. Goldman. I work criminal law 15, 16 hours a day. I'm already more liberated than I want to be. Wow. Man, that is very, very well written. Okay, so that's the situation, right? So Spenser rigs up a cast and on his leg. Henry Simoli at the Harbor Health Club gym helps him out with it. And Spenser goes out and it's going to break Hawk out of jail. Sounds difficult, right? No, very, very easy and a very interesting part of the book. Still near the beginning, only 4% into the book, but man, this book is so well written and just really grabs your attention from beginning to end. As soon as I came into public view, I began to weave, my head down, mumbling to myself. It is not easy to mumble to yourself if you don't feel moved to mumble. I didn't know what to mumble, and finally began to mumble the starting lineup for the impossible dream Red Sox team of 1967. Rico Petrocelli, I mumbled. Carl Yastrzemski. Jerry Adair. I sat on the front steps of the town library and took a swig from my bottle, blocking the bottleneck with my tongue so I didn't have to swallow any. What I was going to do didn't get any easier if I did it drunk. A couple of high school girls in leg warmers and headbands skirted me widely and went into the library. Dalton Jones, I mumbled. I took another make-pretend swig. A good-looking, middle-aged woman in a lavender sweatshirt and white Nikes with a lavender swoosh parked a brown Mercedes sedan in front of the library and got out with 5 or 6 books in her arms. She looked forcefully in the other direction as she edged past me. George Scott, I mumbled, and as she went by, I reached up and pinched her on the backside. And so he continues on like this. Basically, he's trying to get himself arrested, and he does a very good job. Young cop comes along, basically gets him standing up against the car, pats him down. Spenser pretends that he's basically falling asleep and pretends to fall asleep. The cop catches him under the arms, brings him to the police station, says, you're going to spend the night here, and we'll talk things over in the morning. And while he's there, well, guess what? Hawk's there too. It's almost like Hawk is waiting for him. Hawk knows he's going to come. And they put him into a cell, and in the middle of the night, Spenser takes off his cast, takes out his gun, starts making a ruckus. They come in, and Spenser pulls the gun on him. He and Hawk escape. And that's basically how the book begins. It's a really, really nice book. As I said, it's my favorite of the books, of all the Spenser books. And the next book we're going to look at is number 16 in the series. We're going to, from now, I'm not going to go through the entire series. There are some I'm going to skip. We're going to go to number 16. It's called Playmates. It's also a very good one. In it, Spenser helps an incredibly good black basketball player who's under the thumb of some gangsters. Spenser loves the guy's girlfriend, wants to help them. It's a point shaving scandal at Taft University, and Spenser's there doing what Spenser does. So, thanks a lot, everyone, and I will see all of you again soon. Thank you.